Wood was brought from all over the country. To build a single ship, entire forests were felled. How big were the ships? The historical sources say that some of them, the treasure ships, were over 120 metres long and had 9 masts. That would make them the biggest wooden ships of all time. In the dry docks at Longjiang, the archaeologists looked for evidence of the treasure ship's size. The team found 2 anchors, each over 2 metres 40 long. They are the first solid evidence of the gigantic size of the imperial treasure ships. The archaeologists went on looking for evidence. Finally, they found 2 enormous rudders in the mud. Can this discovery finally answer the question as to the size of the ships?
最主要的是2根那个比较巨大的舵杆，这2个舵杆呢就出在我们这个塘的东部位置，这个当时在冲淤冲到底下，快到底部的时候就冲出来了。这2根舵杆啊，一根10米，一根是11米，这2根舵杆非常大，非常大。我们当时那个请了一些专家来看过这舵杆以后，他们就觉得这个舵杆肯定不是一般的船用的舵杆，肯定是这个出海用的，或者是外面大船上用的舵杆。
With the help of this rudder, scientists have finally been able to check the measurements quoted in the old sources. They refer to 444 che, equivalent to 134 metres. The number 444 was auspicious, as the Chinese regarded 4 as a divine number. It symbolised the earth. The size of the rudder is proof of how big the ships were. Moreover, the treasure ships had 5 decks. For ships of that height to be able to float with any stability, they would need to be unusually long and broad. To sail a ship of that size required 9 masts, staggered to make the best use of the wind. The size of the rudder casts some doubt on the accuracy of the chronicler's 444 che. It was probably wishful thinking on their part. Historians estimate that the ships were 126 metres long and 51 metres wide, still larger than a football field. To build such mammoth ships required a huge investment in manpower and materials. Ships of this size were not built in Europe until the late 19th century, and then they were not wooden, but steel. Zhang He didn't build just treasure ships. He also built other ships of different sizes and uses. After 2 years, 60 were ready, the nucleus of a planned armada of over 300 junks. When they were finished, the ships had to be launched. The dry docks had sluice gates that opened into the Yangtze River. When the ships were ready, the basins were flooded. Because the junks had a flat hull, even the largest treasure ships could navigate the river without running aground. From there, they sailed towards the open sea. The first part of Zhang He's task was complete. Now his real mission could begin. For as the Emperor's confidant, he had been appointed to command of the fleet. A whole team of specialists went aboard with him. Interpreters and diplomats, astronomers and navigators, doctors and medical scientists, and astrologists and geomancers to divine the weather. Zhang He was not only an admiral, he was also the political and economic representative of the Ming dynasty. The fleet assembled in the port of Taiping. Over 60 ships were ready to explore the oceans of the world. Altogether, Zheng He made 7 voyages. Each expedition lasted 2 years. Undertaken on behalf of the state, they demonstrated China's belief in her own culture. In contrast to the Europeans, the emperor didn't want to colonize or conquer. He believed that the superiority of Chinese civilization would open doors everywhere. In the 3rd year of Yongle's reign, the fleet set out on one of the greatest maritime adventures in Chinese history. They weighed anchor in the autumn of 1405. Each anchor weighed 1/4 ton. The anchor ropes were made of twisted bamboo fibre, strengthened by immersion in boiling water. Zheng He was born a Muslim, an additional qualification for him to command, as the expedition was supposed to forge ties with the Muslim world. 28,000 sailors manned the junks. Several men were needed to hoist the heavy sails. They pivoted around the mast so that the wind could be used from any direction. The square-rigged ships of Europe were at their best only when the wind was directly behind them. The mammoths of the sea were unwieldy. They had a displacement of 3,000 tons, 25 times that of Vasco da Gama's ships, and over 30 times that of the ships with which Columbus discovered America. On some of his voyages, Zheng He had up to 300 ships. Columbus, sailing almost a century later, had just 3 ships. The Armada was the pride of the Middle Kingdom. In terms of size and magnificence, it is still incomparable. In the early 15th century, it outshone anything Europe had, or would have, for centuries to come. How were these great ships navigated? Before the fleet set out, China's entire geographical knowledge was pooled. Traders and merchants from all over the world added to the material, and scholars compiled a comprehensive collection of sea charts. Together with the compass, which China had developed in the 11th century, the charts helped the fleet navigate foreign waters. But the Chinese charts worked differently from modern maps, with north at the top. They depicted the world as a series of roads and sea routes, identifiable by particular landmarks. It was a simple system. The maps directed the seafarers with landmarks as guides. Distinctive places like Five Tiger Island were orientation points for a change of course. If you impose the north and south orientation of a modern map on one of these old charts, it's clear that the points of the compass played no part in them.
航海的人呢，他往往都需要找一些目标，那么特别是因为海上很难找，那么一般都以地标，就陆地上面一些标志啊，所以它往往是一个港口啊，或者一个岛啊，或者一块什么礁石啊，那么一个什么景观呢，它把它作为地点，因为它很难在像今天我们有经纬度的概念，当时没有经纬度，也即使有，但是没有像现在们可以测量那么方便，所以一般呢，它不是找这个地理坐标，而是找一个具体的点。
But there are no landmarks on the high seas. To solve this problem, the maps contained other instructions. They set down the required sailing speeds and the appropriate times for changing course. A ship could only follow the chart and change course at the right time if it kept to the prescribed tempo. The ship's speed was checked every hour, using a system known in Europe as heaving the log.
一个人船员在船头扔下一块木块，船在航行的时候扔一块木块下去，那个木块基本上是原则上说，假设是相对来说它是不动的，在海上呢它是不动的，我们船是运动的。这个时候呢，我人就走到船尾，看这个木块，假设这个木块还没有，我人都走到了，木块还没到，它叫不过根，你还没到呢，不过根。假设我人